Welcome to the Woman Who Lived podcast. Hello, Rebecca. Thank you for coming on. I'll just introduce a short wee introduction for you. We have the world's strongest woman and UK's from last week. UK, well, actually, by the time this goes out, it'll not be last week, but UK's strongest woman as well. So thank you again for taking the time out to come and chat to me. So I'll just get you to introduce yourself a wee bit. Tell us a wee bit more about you, and if you have a fun fact, you can tell us a fun fact. If not, don't worry.
So I'm Rebecca Roberts, and you said I am the world's strongest woman and Europe's strongest woman. I compete in both strongwoman and grip. I'm 27. I am from Wales, and probably a fun fact for me is that I am obsessed with unicorns and Disney, which you might not think, like being 6'3", 6'4", and kind of big, that I've got this kind of soft girly side inside. But yeah.
Cool. We all love a bit of Disney, don't we?
So,
oh yeah, I love Disney. Well, who's your favorite Disney character at the minute? Because there's so many new ones out.
It's got to be Louisa, hasn't it? Like from Encanto, it's got to be.
Do you know, I haven't even seen that film yet. I haven't even sat down and seen it yet.
You need to. It's amazing. It's like my favorite film at the minute.
My wee niece keeps pestering me about watching it, but she hasn't been up yet, and I want to watch it with her. It's not as fun watching it with a 36-year-old man sitting, and he's like, oh, Disney.
I'm glad that Paul puts up with it.
Okay, Michael does too, but it's just like he's so into, like, he just would rather sit and watch strength and conditioning YouTube videos and watch than watch Disney. Anything but that. So yeah, where was I? Yeah. So obviously you were saying before we started recording that you'd done a bit of rugby. So just tell us how long you were doing rugby. Are you still doing rugby? Probably not, because your time's probably took up quite a lot, like with strong woman. It's quite time consuming. But yeah, just tell us what sports you've done in the past.
So when I was in school, I used to hate sport. Like, I used to forge notes just to get out of PE. And then I was forced into doing like school sports days where I'd do shot put. And then I ended up becoming a national champion in shot put when I was about 14. And then I didn't really do any kind of sport up until I went to university. So I moved from North Wales to Liverpool for university.
Yeah.
And I thought I wanted to just join the society, kind of get to know some girls and things like that, and just have like a little bit of fun. And I was at like the sports kind of fest thing, and I saw that there was like rugby going on and there was bigger girls there, and I was like, oh, I could join this. And then I just started to play, and I got quite good at it. And then I ended up through university playing for a premiership level team as well as my university team. In my second year, I captained the university team, which was really cool. But then I had to retire from rugby because I had a really bad back injury after kind of my third year. I did want to play for Wales, like that was my kind of goal, because on the premiership team, there was like people that played for Wales and England and Scotland and stuff. So there was like a gateway through that. But the back injury had me like, I couldn't walk for 6 months.
How did you injure it? Like, was it just during rugby?
During rugby, yeah. I was tackled by two girls, and I fell like completely, just really weirdly on my back. Like I tore like ligaments, I did tendon damage, I slipped 2 of my discs, I did nerve damage all down my back, and it wasn't great.
No, it doesn't sound fun at all.
No.
I take it then whenever you're doing training, you focus quite a lot of work on your back to make sure it's good and strong and stuff as well. So I mean, you wouldn't be able to attempt to lift what was it, over 300 kilos at the world record day in, where was that again? Was that in Arnold's, or I can't remember where that was.
It was like, I think it was 286.
286. Yeah, that's some, like, you have to have a good back to be able to lift that. Definitely, no doubt about that. And then, so what got you in then to how did you come across Strong Woman? Like, it's not that popular. It wasn't that popular for a while. I mean, it's only starting to come into play now. It's only starting to get really popular.
Yeah, like I had I'd not even watched World's Strongest Man. Like when I first started, I just had no clue about the sport whatsoever. I did do some lifting to like supplement like my rugby training just to kind of get my strength up for that. But after I was injured with my back, I didn't do anything for around a year to 18 months. And I was on Plenty of Fish, and I know this is really weird, but I had like that I played rugby on my profile, and Paul was on Plenty of Fish as well. And we started talking, and I told him about the injury and that I'd stopped going to the gym. And originally he just agreed to help me kind of rehab that back injury.
Yeah.
So technically our first date was in the gym.
No better place.
So yeah, and then Paul was like, he's a proper geek for strongman and grip and everything like that. He's grown up with it. He was competing at the time. And like we were just training, he was helping move my back, and he was like, do you know what, you're quite strong. And he introduced me to, like, we were watching some of the strongman stuff together, and I thought that was pretty cool. So we went to a strongman gym, and I had a little play around with some of the kit, and I really enjoyed it. And he was like, well, there's this competition like coming up, and I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, do you know what, I'll have a go. Like, life's for living. I'll go and I'll see if I can kind of do it and if I enjoy it and things. And yeah, I did. So we met in the May. Actually, our anniversary is tomorrow. So the
happy anniversary for tomorrow.
And that'll be our 6-year anniversary. So I've been like training for 6 years for this sport from tomorrow, which is quite crazy.
Wow.
But yeah, we met in the May, and the first competition was in September, and that was UK Strongest Woman at the time, and I won that one. But
you won that as your first competition as well. That is pretty impressive. I suppose you already had the strength background even with the rugby, even though you were injured in that too. So yeah. Sorry, I I interrupt sometimes. Sorry, you're probably in your zone there talking. Go ahead.
Oh, no, it's fine. So it's weird because the UK Strongest Woman, it was UK Strongest Woman, but there was only 3 people in the weight class. Like the sport was still really small back then. Like you were only getting like 3 or 4 people even at a national level competition. So to see that now, like you've got the competitions like they are just 6 years on, like it's just incredible to see how it's kind of grown while I've been part of the sport, let alone people that have kind of been part of it for longer. Really good.
Yeah. And what was can you remember the events of your first competition?
There was a axle deadlift. I think it was from 15 or 18 inch. There was a Viking press, a stone of steel over a bar for reps, and then there was this farmers and yoke medley, and another medley where there was a keg in it, a drag, and a finger's finger. Oh, it was a pretty cool competition.
Yeah. Is the girls that were against you, are they still doing it at the
minute? So one of them, Jen, she's had a couple of kids since then, so I'm not sure if she competes in Strong Women anymore, but another one was Lorna Patton, and she's gone down a weight class. She's competing in the E18s now. She's lost a load of weight. She's looking incredible at the minute, so it's good to see that she's kind of like still competing as well, but in a healthier weight class, almost like Donna Moore has.
Yeah. Where were we? So your first comp. I can't think of anything in between that. I don't want to just jump right to winning worlds. Is there anything in between that you have done?
I've won the World Grip Championships twice.
Oh yes, I remember you actually telling me that the first time I met you. Talk to us a wee bit about the grip, because you love your grip events.
Grip's my favourite. Like Paul, he's a proper geek for grip. He's got one of the strongest grips in the world. He's like closed the heaviest gripper. I think only a handful of men have actually closed a certain gripper that he's managed to close. So a big thing that he's been helping me train as well is my grip, to make sure that it's like kind of really strong. And we've competed in several grip comps now. So I've won European Grip Championships and then the World Grip Championships twice. And I actually had the honour of competing against Elizabeth Horn. And now she's an incredible grip athlete. I think she was undefeated in the grip sport for about 22 years.
Wow.
I know, until the British Grip Championships where I beat her by a single point. So it came down to about 25 grams or two. I think it was either 25 or 250 grams on a certain implement was the difference between who was going to win between me and her. But thankfully, like I managed to get the lift and win the competition. So that was probably one of my proudest competitions like to date, to
Yeah.
be able to have done that. Like that's one of the hardest kind of battles that I've kind of had for a win kind of thing.
And how often does he have you train your grip?
I train my grip almost every session really, in a certain way or another. It just depends what kind of competition I'm going for. So if, for example, like for UK's last week, I was doing a lot of pinch holds. I was doing a lot of what else was he making me do for my grip? I was doing grippers as well. Partly because I want to certify on a 2.5 gripper, which is an Iron Mind one. And no woman's certified on this kind of gripper before, so that's one more goal that I've got for this year.
Cool.
It's kind of like competition specific grip training that I do. We use fat grips a lot, so
they're great them.
To train for the dumbbell, we were putting like fat grips around normal gym dumbbells just to be able to get like the grip of that right. And also like the car holds and things like that. So I was training my grip for that on a hammer strength shrug machine thing. To be honest, I'm not very technical with stuff. Like people ask me for like coaching advice and things, and I'm like, well, I don't know the names of exercises. I give them my own names. So like hyperextension, call seals, and then like the chest things I call hulks. Well, side penguins, side bends. So yeah, I just have my own weird names for everything.
But sometimes you have to like it's like I was always taught in school like I wasn't. I'm intelligent and smart and all that crack, but see when it comes to learning stuff, I can't get it in my head unless I used to have to sing it, so I'd make up a song and then that way I'd remember it. So I completely get where you're coming from. So do so it's great I can edit out these things, isn't it? I have it all written down and I can't even understand my own bloody writing half the time. It was suppose we could go to so prep. So your competition OSG, that was World's Strongest Woman. So how was your prep and recovery and your nutrition coming up to that competition?
So which one, for OSG 2019 or for the 2021?
2021, sorry, I forgot you had 19 as well, sorry.
So the prep went really well for that. I'd started introducing cryotherapy into my training and prep and things like that. So I'd go for a cryotherapy twice a week, the day before my heaviest sessions. So that's where you go into like the chamber and get frozen to like minus 100 and God knows how many degrees. But I prefer it to an ice bath.
Really? Oh.
Because like it's over and done with in 3 minutes, but an ice bath you have to sit around for ages and just I hate it. So yeah, it's not too bad. But I found that massively helped reduce all the inflammation and like I could get better sessions in. Paul's very dynamic with my coaching. Like I'm very lucky to have a coach that's kind of at my sessions all the time. So if something needs tweaking or if I'm struggling with the amount of reps that he's kind of originally programmed, he'll change things about. He can like adjust my technique on the fly rather than like having to film a session and then it go back to a coach and then the coach kind of breaks it down and then you try it again the next session. I've got the kind of advantage of I can try it again the next set. Like, do you know what I mean? If one set's wrong, he's like, right, change this for the next set, and then I go again. So that's like a massive advantage that I've got to a lot of other competitors, in that he's there with me all the time. So yeah, the prep went really well. Cryotherapy all the time, basically. I was on a bulk at that time because I had cut down to about 135 kilos. So I went into World's Strongest Woman at around 150 kilos. Because I did have a knee injury at the time.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do any log pressing because I couldn't push press with my knees. So we needed to build my kind of base strength up for pressing like quickly. So obviously the best way is just to get all the calories in and try and put on as much muscle as you can. So I did bulk up for Worlds, which worked because the log at the competition was technically above my 1 rep max, and we were supposed to rep it, and I was bricking it. I was like, for God's sake, because if I zeroed that, then that was the competition over. There was just no way that I could win. So we just hammered like the log training, but it was all seated. So it was seated dumbbell, seated incline, seated log, just to give my knees a bit of time to rest because I couldn't push press. But yeah, that seemed to work because I managed to get 5 reps at 107 kilos or something.
And you definitely would not have thought you had a knee injury going into that. Not at all.
You should have seen how bad it was. Like, I think the first day I was okay, but then I was still having to get adjusted by like the physiotherapists and the what's it called? They're not chiropodists, chiropractors. There we go. By the chiropractors there as well. But then at the end of the first day, I was completely broken. Like I couldn't, sitting down on the sofa now, I couldn't stand up without Paul's help. I couldn't get out of bed without Paul's help. Like I couldn't do much at all. It was like adrenaline that was getting me through day 2 and day 3. So yeah, I was half tempted to pull out after the first day. It was.
I'm glad you didn't. I'm sure you're glad you didn't.
So it was like a hard battle, and I did have to kind of push myself really far just to be able to get through the full competition. But I'm proud that I managed to get to that kind of. It's like it's mental strength more than physical strength at that point. It's like it's pushing your body just to kind of perform, even though it's screaming at you not to. It might not have been the cleverest of things to do, but we had the time then afterwards, like in my off season, to rehab my knees, and they're fine.
And like, would you see a sports psychologist or anything, to help you with the mental side of things, to be able to push because you really do have to push yourself just that wee bit farther than what you do in most sports. Like it's sports, like there's hard parts to the other sports, but I'm trying not to be biased here when I say like strong woman, you really it does push you over the age.
Yeah, I don't see a sports psychologist, but I do listen to like motivational things on YouTube and stuff like that, and Paul's really good at kind of talking me through the event. Some people, they get kind of angry before events, but I like to kind of enjoy myself. Well, that's the first time actually at World's Strongest Woman last year. That was the first time I went into the competition just to enjoy myself. Before that, I used to get completely nervous, and I used to mess up events because of the nerves. I find that when I enjoy myself, I'm a lot more relaxed. So then I can kind of focus on my techniques and things. So my mentality is completely switched, and that seems to be helping like my performance. It was the same at UK's last week. I was just enjoying myself. I was out there having fun, smiling, and it was just bringing out the best performance from me on the day. And that's what Paul's kind of instilled in me to do. I'm enjoying myself a lot more in the gym now because I just try and like replicate competition in the gym. So I kind of chill out between sets, have a laugh, and it kind of just helps me focusing then on the events. I'm less nervous.
I know I seen Paul, like you were upstairs. I think it was in between the deadlifts or something anyway. And he was just like he was saying, Rebecca, you know, you belong here, you have this, this, and this to do. And don't forget that, you know, you're world's strongest woman. And, you know, but he was like, don't let that pressure you, but you know, you know what you're doing. Do you know what? I just thought I was like, I was under my head, I was like, oh, that is so cute. And then I was like, I just walked downstairs because it was like they don't want to be, they don't need anybody to be about whenever, you know, whenever you're trying to, you know, encourage your partner and your and that, you know, to settle, I suppose, because the nerves do sometimes get the better of you. And you don't want that to happen in comp.
And that was one big thing that coming into UKs as well that I was struggling with, was the fact that I might have had this kind of target on my head after Worlds. Like I felt like part of me, like I had to perform because I'm the world's strongest woman. Like if I don't perform, what are people going to think of me?
Yeah.
And then part of me was like, well, are people expecting me to do well? Like, am I going to kind of disappoint them if I don't do well, if I don't win this competition? Like, so it was quite hard to kind of to get over that and just to remind myself I'm here because I'm having fun. I'm here because this is something that I love. I'm not doing this for anybody else. I'm doing this for me. Like, and that massively helps. And Paul just helps kind of ground me and like reminds me of that and reminds me that I deserve to be here. Because I had a little bit of imposter syndrome as well, because I'd only won World's Strongest Woman by a single point. And I was like, well, was it a fluke? Like, do you know what I mean? So I had like a little bit of kind of that kind of going on as well. So again, it's just a massive mentality with the sport. And the mental side, if you can conquer that, you can do anything physically, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So you were saying you were bulking up for the competition for Worlds. What calories, or do you work in calories? Do you work in macros, or do you work in grams of protein and carbs and stuff? Everybody I chat to works in something's completely different.
God, I think at one point I was on about 4,500 calories a day, but I was getting a weekly cheat meal as well. And that was before my heavy session every week to kind of make sure that I was like fueled and had like all the carb sources and all that shaz. I don't know. I don't understand massive nutritional stuff. But yeah, so I was on around 4,500 calories a day. And I was kind of, well, it was putting on a lot of muscle. Like I could see, like in my frame and stuff, that my upper body was like, was getting more muscular, which is the main thing. That's the one thing that we just needed to kind of push. I was on, I think I was on about 280 grams of protein. And then how many carbs? I think maybe 400 to 500 grams of carbs a day. And then the rest of it fats. But I kind of made sure I hit my protein target and then just like carbs and fats kind of rest
into one anyway.
That was the way that Paul does, because I used to have quite a bad binge eating disorder. So Paul knows with my nutrition that I can't be restricted with anything. That's one of the main things, because if he restricts things, then that's when I tend to go out and binge. So, because I was 185 kilos and I'd cut down to around 130, 135. And that was when COVID was happening while there was no competitions. And I did that just kind of, Paul gave me my macros and then left me to it. Like I could eat whatever I wanted as long as it fit those macros, and that because I could put in a chocolate bar here and there, and I could kind of settle like my cravings and things like that. I'm not one of those people that has right at 8 o'clock you eat your oats, at 10 o'clock you eat your chicken and rice. Do you know what I mean? It's like, here's my macros, I'll have what I need and what I want. I'll space out my protein throughout the day and I'll just eat what I want. And that seems to work for me.
And do you one of the things I notice sometimes, and at the minute I don't have a period at the minute because of, I think it's partly to do with quite a lot of stuff, we're going through IVF stuff and training and lifting heavy and that. So it comes in waves. But do you still have like a normal menstrual cycle in that as well, or is it something that you're working on?
I did do up until I had my COVID jabs, and now a lot
Oh,
of people have said that it's stopped, but it's completely stopped mine again. I didn't have periods while I was at my heaviest weight,
yeah,
but as I was cutting weight down, and well, I got down to about 140, and from then for about a year or so, I was having regular periods.
mm.
But then I had my COVID vaccinations, and that all stopped. But I do suffer from polycystic ovaries as well,
Oh,
so
right,
that kind of mess around with my periods a lot as well. I
yeah,
get really bad period cramps. Paul knows when I'm due on because even though I don't have a period, I still get the cramps as if I am. It's really
yeah,
weird. So we have to adjust training and stuff when I'm like on, and I can't wear my belt as tight. Sometimes I can't wear a belt at all because of the pain. So
yeah.
he'll kind of give me a little bit of deload week where I have like a lighter week where I'm still training. But I'm just doing a lot of beltless work, which also worked for Paul, which is good anyway.
Yeah.
So again, like things are adjusted just on the fly as to how I'm feeling on that day.
That's good. It's actually good too that you have somebody who's so close to you that understands how your body works as well. Because like you can have a coach and you can't, if you don't have that relationship with them, you don't want to tell them that that you've got your period and you feel completely weak. So the reason I bring it up is it's just I think it's fascinating in this sport and other sports, but also it's just not talked about enough. Whenever I was younger, you were just treated like a wee boy, and we're not wee boys either. We're women, we've got hormones, and like I was told not to eat, or we were always told not to eat. We had to be certain weight going on the football pitch, and we were only allowed to have X, Y, and Z. And from then, like, it's just a bit disordered, and I think I'm paying for it now sometimes with some of my hormonal imbalances. Does it affect you when you're training? Because I know like natural estrogen levels and stuff and progesterone levels, whenever they're at the high, whenever you're on your ovulation cycle, it does help your strength. Do you notice that with the polycystic ovaries and that? Does it affect you at all?
To be honest, I wouldn't say I notice it too much in because of the way that I train. Like I don't train maximally a lot, well, anytime really. Paul has me training a lot of sub-maximal kind of stuff. So I do notice sometimes that there is like a dip in my strength. But then I know a lot of the time that I'm kind of sorry, I'm fluffing this up now.
You're all right. Don't worry. I can cut and edit. It's not, I know it's not something I put in the questions, but it's just when
Oh
I was
no.
going on, it's just something that just came into my head because I do like to talk about it. And I think if anybody's watching, any young girls are watching, at least if they hear us talking about it, if they hear the world's strongest woman talking about it, they know they can talk about it to somebody. There's somebody out there who's going to listen.
So yeah, like I do have my dips in strength, but then that's when Paul adjusts my training to kind of be kind of a little bit lighter, but then we're still getting a lot of work in, we're still using the muscles and things like that. But then I do get times where I am stronger. I think that is related to like my cycle and where it would be. But yeah, with the polycystic ovaries, that's like a completely different issue again in that I do struggle a lot more with cramps and pain and things, and Paul does have to adjust my sessions a lot of the time when it's that time of the month,
Yeah.
just to make sure that I'm still training, but then I'm not kind of pushing myself too hard with the pain. So yeah, that's just why I'm so glad to be able to have him there as a coach.
Yeah. And so when you won Worlds, what was obviously you're feeling absolutely ecstatic, but how did you actually feel when they actually called your name out? Rebecca Roberts, first place.
There's a picture that's like that it just explains it to a T. I'm laughing and I'm smiling, but I'm crying at the same time. And Liz Charlie, she took the photo. I'm like, you can just see just on my face how happy I am, but then I'm crying at the same time because I'm like, oh my god. And then, but yeah, it was just, I couldn't believe it, to be honest. I was trying to get Paul to like just tell me like if I'd won or not, because it was that close. And then when they kind of called my name out, I was like, no, they're not. It's not
So you
true.
actually literally had no idea until they called your name out then at the end.
Yeah, we had no idea. It was just that close. There were so many amazing girls there, and
Yeah.
the competition was fierce. Like between the top five, the competition could have gone any way at any point. Like it was that close. But thankfully, my injuries held up just enough for me to kind of get like the performance that I needed to in.
What like did did oh Jesus Christ, where am I going with this? What was hang on 2 wee seconds. So OSG, you had to pay your own way out there, didn't you? So how did you like go? Did you have sponsors not helping you, or did you have any help? Trying to take it out there, because I know it can be quite expensive, even if you are working full time and all the crack.
We wouldn't have been able to afford to go if we didn't do a GoFundMe to be able to go. So really, like the world's strongest woman win was down to like all of the people that donated to that in order to help me to go, because otherwise there would have been no way we could have afforded it. The sport is just so expensive. We put so much money into the sport, being Paul. We drive like a rubbish car. We pay like minimal rent because we live in Paul's parents' house that they've bought for us to rent, just to pay their mortgage off, kind of at that kind of price.
Yeah.
And we just scrimp and save just to be able to compete, and all of our spare money just goes back into competitions and stuff. So, but again, like going to America, it was so expensive. It was, I think the whole trip costs us about $5,000-6,000, but then on top of that, you've got all of kind of like your cryotherapy treatments, your physiotherapy, your sports therapists. You've got obviously your food, the gym memberships. We had 3 different gym memberships at the time. One of them was just a local kind of commercial gym. Another one was for like the swimming, the hot and cold treatments, and then another one was our strongman gym. So I'll be paying all of that and stuff as well. Like costs a lot. All the equipment and stuff too. So yeah, like if we didn't have that GoFundMe page, we wouldn't have been able to go. Thankfully this year, I've got sponsors that are going to be paying money for me to go to Worlds this year.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's good.
That won't be so much of an issue, which is good. And there is prize money as well that we're managing to kind of get to be able to pay towards different competitions. So like for the rogue record breakers that were in March this year, we paid out, I think it was about 2,000, well, about £1,500-1,600, I think it cost for us to get over there. But then I got the record in the Thor's Hammers Hold, which was $5,000 prize money. So we basically doubled the money on that. And then that of the £1,600 that we made is going towards like going to another competition next month. So it's just, it swings and roundabouts, but it's all slowly like paying for itself now, and hopefully like when the women's sport grows even more, there's going to be opportunities to hopefully earn a living from it. It's the plan.
What was there prize money for one in OSG?
Yeah, it was $5,000. But then again, that was basically cost of the trip covered. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't really any kind of profit kind of coming out from it, but again, like it was worth it to win that title. It was worth it.
Definitely.
It was worth it to experience just going abroad and competing and meeting new people. That's the thing that I love about it, is that I've got friends all over the world. I can rock up to a country and I've probably got a friend that lives there, and that's what I just love. It's just the people that I've met through the sport too.
Yeah. And how come you didn't compete at Arnold's? Was there a was there a qualifier to be able to compete at Arnold's? That's one you don't that was the one that you broke the record in, isn't it? I'm
Yeah.
not wrong.
I did want to do the pro women's competition, but they didn't let me because I didn't have a pro card, which is fair enough. Through kind of because there's different corporations, federations in strongman, and I
Right.
need a strongman corporation pro card. So because I didn't have it, they wouldn't let me compete in the pro women's.
Even though you won worlds, does that not make
Yeah.
you a pro? Okay.
It was the same with Donna Moore. She won World's Strongest Woman and she was still an amateur. She had to go and compete in the Arnold Amateurs to get her pro card and qualification for Arnold Pro. So she won Worlds and then had to do an amateur competition, which I suppose isn't really fair on the other competitors because she was far from amateur if you're winning World's Strongest Woman. So I could have potentially done the Arnold Amateurs when I was over at the Arnold as well.
Yeah.
But it made more kind of business sense, I suppose, to go for the Rogue record breakers. Because they were paying $5,000 for each record broken, and I was going for 4, so it could have been a $20,000 payday, or
Yeah.
go there and lose $3,000-4,000 and maybe get a pro card. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Because I had to go up against Inez, who was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, she's a machine.
And with 3 weeks' notice to get prepared for a competition against Inez, there was just no
Yeah,
way.
I forgot. Yeah, they only give you 3 weeks notice. I forgot that.
Yeah, for the road record breakers, there wasn't much notice to be able to train for anything really. But we went there, we gave it my best shot, and we came away with a world record, so we were happy.
Yeah. So the deadlift that you done on Rogue and the record breakers, you did new straps, am I right?
Yeah.
Was there a reason you didn't use straps? Because you could obviously use straps whenever you were doing the deadlift. And then
Yeah.
you walk up to it and you had no straps, and I was like, why is she not wearing straps? What was your reason behind it?
I struggle with, I wouldn't say I struggle, but when I deadlift with straps, the bar tends to come forward on me.
Oh, right.
When I'm using mixed grip, I can get my lats in tighter so the bar's not flying forward. With the elephant bar, it's really kind of whippy. When it gets to a certain point, like you can feel like the whip on it, and then that'll pull you forward. But with obviously being really good at grip, I wasn't concerned about the fact that I couldn't hold on to it. I was doing 300 kilo holds on a stiff bar for 10 seconds in training before the actual the deadlift attempt. So I knew that I could hold on to the bar. I knew that I could, if I needed to, grind it out for over 10 seconds and not lose grip on that bar because I trained for my grip to do that way. But then we just thought, you know what, let's just use the mixed grip, make sure your lats are tight, because I really struggle with mind-muscle connection. I'm slightly dyslexic as well, so it takes a long time for me to learn technique. So yeah, the mixed grip was just purely just to kind of help with my positioning and stop the bar flying forward.
No, that's fair enough. And you also went for wasn't it 180 kilo Atlas stone record as well, wasn't it? And you, oh my God, you were so fucking close. I mean, I was screaming at that TV. And from what I was saying, but from what Donna was saying as well, and that like the stone was a lot rounder, not rounder, it's going to be round anyway, but it was a lot larger in comparison to some of the stones that she was training with. And was it much, because I know I've seen your videos, like you have lifted the 180 kilo stone. What was the difference that day?
Tacky, basically.
Tacky.
So I'm not going to name any names, but one of the girls that went beforehand, basically almost emptied a full tacky tub onto the stone, it looked like. That's why you saw after all of our first attempts, they removed the platform, they flipped it all over, and like,
Yeah.
because the floor, because I was the last person to go on the stone, and the stone was stuck to the floor, like there was almost a pool of tacky around the stone. And yeah, I think they might have overdone it a little bit with the tacky. I'm not saying that I'd definitely lifted it without, but I think there'd have been a better chance of me kind of having the energy to be able to lift it and lap it and things like that. Because I lifted the 180 before to a 3-foot platform.
Yeah.
And I had lapped it again, like in training a few times, and I tripled a 170 in training before that competition as like my last big session. So I was pretty confident that the stone would go up, but again, like as Donna said, it was a massive stone. So it's like it's really hard to kind of get your reach on it. But I think we all put in quite a good attempt.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to be the first woman to do the £400. Like that's one of my goals as well.
Have you got that lined up yet?
Yes, on the 28th of August. So it'll be at England's Strongest Man at the halftime show.
Oh.
Glenn Ross is getting me to try it, so hopefully it goes.
I would say it definitely will. It's there, like it's there. But as you say, if the tacky and that just wasn't such a pain in the ass.
Tacky. That's one thing, like I wish they'd just get rid of tacky completely and we could all do tackless stones. Like they might not be as heavy, but at least like we don't have to worry about getting it all off. Like I'm a little bit OCD. I wouldn't say I'm OCD, but I just hate the feeling of tacky on my hands.
It isn't nice at all. Like, and getting it off is a fucking pain in the ass too.
And then I did my nails really nice for UKs, and then the tacky just took all the nail varnish off, and I was fuming.
Oh, and we'll get round to UKs now. I think that's pretty much. What was the other? What was the other? We don't even talk. Actually, we haven't even actually talked about your world record, though, have we?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about that. So, how did you actually train for that? For it's a mixture of what? Mixture of a grip and mixture of like shoulder. You need to have strong shoulders and a strong back because you had to stand really, really tall and straight.
Basically, it was just a 3-week prep for all 3 of the records, so we didn't really have much kind of much time to really do much for training wise. The weight of it was about 23.5 kilos.
Oh, it
so
looked far heavier.
Oh, it was awful. But to be fair, that isn't much lighter than what the men were using at Giants Live a couple of years ago on the Thor's household. So it was a pretty decent weight. I don't think there has been that weight in a women's competition before. So it was really good to be able to kind of push that barrier as well and show that women can do kind of heavy things, and hopefully they keep progressing the sport and make other things heavier and push us to kind of break more barriers. But yeah, Paul was just getting me to train just a lot of forward holds. I'd go and do some kind of heavier overloading kind of sets. So I'd do maybe 25 kilos for sets of 10 to 15 seconds. And then I'd have like a lighter day that week where I'd maybe do 18 kilos, but then go for a minute. But then I was kind of training the overloading as well as the kind of lighter and the endurance part of it. And it seemed to work, which is good.
And was the camp like, did you see the timer in front of you, or like were you just counting in your head? Were you trying to do 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi?
To be honest, I can't even remember now. Like I remember that Paul was kind of he was standing about kind of 3 meters away from me, and I know that he was shouting, so I'm pretty sure he'd have been shouting the time and making sure that I stayed there, because it's a lot more of a mental thing than people realize, because your whole body is telling you to put it down. Like it's not right for you to be holding this weight out in front of you for that amount of time. But you're just fighting just to keep it up, and then you're having to think about making sure your bum's like against the wall thing and that your head's up against it, and there's so many different things to think about, and then you're just dealing with the pain of holding out this heavy weight. It's awful, but I'm just glad that I finally I got just above the threshold that they wanted. Like if it had been less than 35 seconds, they wouldn't have given any prize money for it. And I think I did 39. And then as soon as I put it down, you could see Paul's face drop because he thought that I'd put it down at like 34 seconds.
Oh, right.
And he was just like, oh, for God's sake, you've not done it where you've like stopped it a second before, like you got the money. But then they announced it at 39 at least.
I missed that wee bit. They just you went a wee bit. You paused, so they announced then the 39 seconds is basically what you had said there, wasn't it?
Yeah, so they announced it was 39 seconds, and Paul was just like, you could see the relief on his face.
Class. And did they give it to you in a like a big massive like 3 foot by 3 foot check?
No, it was just bank transfer.
Oh, that's handy. I thought that, you know, the way you see them on TV with these big massive checks and you're like taking a photo of them, they're like nearly the size of I know they're only for photos, but it'd be funny going home with one of them in the airplane.
I know, taking that into the bank.
Good luck at you. So I suppose we could probably go on to, I suppose there was nothing really in between that. You were just getting prepped then for UKs, wasn't it? There was, oh, you had to do, did you have to do the qualifier for UKs? I don't remember seeing you.
I'd qualified for it because I came top 3 last year.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Donna and Lucy, we automatically qualified, and I think Annabelle automatically qualified for it as well. Just because of the placings from last year's UKs. So I just went into an off season, and then obviously went to the Arnolds, and then after the Arnolds, it was just focusing on the prep for UKs.
And how did your prep go for UKs? Because I know there was a few things going on and behind the scenes. Tell us a bit about that.
It was awful, to be honest. Like, as I was saying before, like I'm used to Paul being there for every session, but it was about 2 weeks after we got back from the Arnolds that Paul fell really ill, and he was in hospital for over a week because he has heart failure. So then I was having to adjust to training by myself and kind of becoming an online client for him. So I was sending my coaching videos and like he'd give me my feedback, tell me off and not doing things right. But yeah, it was just really hard to kind of to deal with mentally. Like your partner's in hospital fighting for his life, but then he wants you to carry on going. Like that was one thing he said, like, I would much prefer you to carry on training for UKs because it gives me personally somewhere to vent. I can go to the gym and I can just kind of vent my stress away. But then it gave Paul something to focus on while he was lying there in the hospital bed. Like he was watching my videos, he was happy getting his coaching brain on and like doing my program and things like that. So it was kind of distracting him from what was going on as well. So that was really good in how it works, but it was just really hard to get used to. And yeah.
Were you doing the cryo spas and massages and stuff as well leading up to it, or?
Yeah, I was doing the cryotherapy twice a week again. So when it kind of gets up to about 3 weeks out from my competitions, I just go and I do it for my heavy sessions, and then it'll just help. I feel like it's just massively helped recover, like from all the inflammation in my body, all the DOMs, they just completely go after I've had a session. And it's really good that they give it to me at a discount because like I'm a professional athlete. So that saves a lot of money.
Yeah, definitely would. And what about your nutrition then for it? Were you kind of maintaining your weight, or were you looking to lose weight for it?
So for up until the Arnold's in March, I was kind of on again on like a bit of a bulk up, because it was trying to get ready for kind of some maximal world records, and I needed to put on some muscle and kind of keep my strength up. But then I kind of got a little bit lazy with my nutrition, and I kind of gained a bit more fat than what I wanted to, really. So I got back up to 160 kilos, was the top weight that I was when I was at the Arnold's in March. And as soon as we came back, I just started to cut. So we got back, I think it was on the 15th of March, something like that. And before UK's, the kind of the carb up, I got down to 146 kilos. So I dropped like 14 kilos in 6 weeks. Just trying to like get as much of the weight off as I can. I'm still cutting now as well. So I'm back down to 145. I was this morning. So my UK's kind of carb up weight has come off now, which is good. I think the day before the competition, I had close to 15,000 calories.
Wow. But you would have needed all that. You would have needed all that, because sometimes in the day, like it's hard to get, it's hard to, 'cause you can be just, you're buzzing from the day anyway, and then trying to get some food into you, and sometimes it's hard to eat properly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know where I was going with that. I know where I was going, but I don't at the same time. Anyway.
I don't really eat in competition. Like when I'm kind of started the competition, that's one thing that I struggle with, especially if it's like a fast-paced one like UK's was. Because you're kind of constantly on the go, and then you're thinking about the next event, then you're thinking about warm-ups, you've not really got time to eat. So I'll have like the odd flapjack, and I'll squeeze a bit of honey in my mouth. And that's usually like my kind of mid-competition snacks. But then it was good that UK's was at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so I could get like a big breakfast in. I think you were there at breakfast, weren't you?
Yeah.
You like the long plates around it, taking it all you can eat to the extreme. But yeah, so that's why I like to get like a lot of food in the day before, and then if it's an afternoon show, I'll get like a really substantial breakfast in, and then I'll snack then through the competition, like on flapjacks and things, if I can get time.
Yeah. And you pretty much won all the events bar, I think, one, wasn't it? You came second in the deadlift.
Sorry, the Zoom meeting, somebody just tried to call me, so it kind of
I was just saying you won like all of the events apart from one, or am I wrong? Like it was just the deadlift came second in that.
Yeah, so 3 events was the first place, and then one was a joint first, and then the deadlift was the second place.
And the whole time, do you so when you're competing then as well, do you just focus on the events? You don't look at where you are, where you're placing. If you obviously, if you come first in each of the events, you're fine. But do you worry about your placing until the very end?
I think it's smart to keep a track of where things are, like, because then if you need to push in the next event, if you can kind of take it easy a little bit. So when I'd won that tire flip, at that point I was confident that I was going to win the competition. Partly because I knew that I could go last on the dumbbell. I knew what reps that I needed to do. I was pretty confident of the top 2 in the dumbbell anyway, because training had gone really well for it. So then I knew that getting the top 2 in the dumbbell would mean that I was top, like the last 2 to go out on the deadlift. So I knew what reps I needed to do. So I was in the position where I could just play the competition to how I wanted it, and put our strategy in that we kind of discussed before the competition into place. So the main event for me was the tire flip. Like that's the one event that I needed to do well. And that's the one that I went all out on. So I was really happy to kind of, for the plan to go smoothly.
Yeah. What was your favorite event of the day?
The car hold.
The car hold.
Yeah.
Oh, you love your grip, obviously. It would have been that. Many seconds, minutes, hours did you get for holding it?
I think I held it for about 1 minute and 10. But I only held it like enough to kind of win the event. Like,
Yeah.
I had trained 2-minute holds with a similar car in training. So I was pretty much prepared for anything, because again, that was an event where you've not seen the other girls do that event. You don't know how they're going to do, because anybody could have won that event. Like when you watch the Ultimate Strongman UK Strongest Man, one of the lightest guys always wins that event. Like, you know what I mean? It's not really a strength event, it's a mentality, and you've not really seen too much of the girls at the top level kind of pushing through mentality like that. So it's hard to predict. Like, one of them could have held for like 3 minutes. Like, you never know how hard they can push through that kind of mental zone. So it was an event that we were pushing pretty hard in training.
Because last year the car hold was an eliminator, wasn't it? You had, if you were in the bottom 4 or 6, whatever, I think it was bottom 6, you had to do the car hold, and like they were, God love them, like you could see their face, they were struggling, like they really absolutely like. And on top of that, if they didn't win it, they were like being put out. So I was just so, it was like exciting but sad to see it, to watch it at the same time from the sideline.
Yeah, definitely. Like, and that's where we saw like Annabelle putting an amazing performance at like car hold last year, and obviously she had a good feeling of a good knowledge of how it felt and things. So we didn't know whether or not she would be really good at this event, as she was. I think she came second or third in the car hold. So again, we just needed to just push the training and hope that it was enough to win. And thankfully it was.
Yeah.
So Paul's really hard on me in training, but it does pay off.
Pays off in the long run. Where do we see? Is there anything else about UK that I haven't mentioned? Well, the events were pretty much the same as last year, apart from the dumbbell and the deadlift was different. How did you find? What was the difference in the deadlift from last year to this year? Obviously, it was a brick hold, like a brick deadlift last year. It was just, that was not very steady, stable at all last year.
Like when I did my first rep of it last year, I nearly fell off the platform. Like it pulled me off.
I think everybody nearly fell, didn't they? Apart from obviously Lucy and Rhiannon.
You know, and like even though I'm tall, I'm afraid of heights. So having to go up on that as well, it just completely throws you off. But yeah, like kind of again last year, I did enough to kind of get a joint win on that event, and then it was the same with this year where I had a certain number of reps that I wanted to hit, and that was 10 reps, because I just wanted to get a second place. There was no way that we were beating Lucy. Like there was no way nobody was beating Lucy, because what she did was incredible. And then before the event, Paul was like, if Lucy does 15 or more reps, don't bother going for it and just go for second place.
Yeah.
I think if I'd have pushed the deadlift, I could have maybe got 14. But there was just nothing. There was no way 18 reps in there for me.
No, because you still had one or 2 events after that as well to do.
So then it's just playing smart again. Like strategy is really important in competition. And then again, it's knowing where you're at and knowing, oh, right, okay, I can drop a point there and not worry about it too much and not have to try and kill myself to get that 1 point. I can let it slide. So that's why it's really good sometimes to be able to just keep on top of where people are and what the points are through the competition.
And the question I wanted to ask you from last year, but I didn't want to ask you in the middle of the competition, in the middle of UK's last year, was that sandbag. So you put it down, did you put it down because you were tired, or had you more in you? And then how did you feel whenever Donna kind of just, I don't know because there was no rules, I suppose, as long as you didn't put it down.
In the previous heat, an athlete was told that she wasn't allowed to rest with the sandbag.
Okay.
So I assumed that resting wasn't allowed.
I was absolutely gutted, Rebecca. Like I was so gutted for. I could see like I could just see you. She was near ready to drop it, and you had a good meter, like a good like
Nearly
run
2 points.
and a half. And I was all,
Yeah.
there's no way that, like, there's no way she'll get that back. And then she started lapping it on her knee, and I was like, what is going on here? So, um, how did, like, I don't know, like, it obviously didn't make you feel great. And if you want to know, we'll not even talk about it. We'll just edit it out. But I just was like,
So yeah, that would have been because I was behind Donna by 1 point overall in the competition. So that point would have been the win for UK Strongest Woman. Like if I'd have won that event, I'd have won overall. But again, it's just the referee, and it's down to that. It's not any Donna's fault. Like, Donna was incredible in the fact that she knew to kind of how to push it, and obviously you can rest once, and if she's not getting told off, like, yeah, she's gonna rest again, like anybody would. So she's just using her kind of competition experience to kind of to push and get the results, and that's one thing that I admire about her, and that's one thing that I did take from the competition. And that's massively helped me. Like, again, every competition's a learning curve.
yeah,
If I had won UKs, then I don't know if I'd have won Worlds, because not winning UKs and losing by that 1 point just gave me the hunger to just to smash the rest of the year.
yeah.
So I'm kind of glad that it worked out the way it did, and then I came this year with like a bit of a, not a revenge, but a little bit of, I wanted
You've
to
more
go back.
experience, more
Yeah,
competition experience as well. You were, you had the from that as well. Like, I even learned from that as well. I learned from that as well. You can be read in between the lines and just be sneaky about it.
that's the thing, is it? It's just pushing it to as much as you're allowed to. Like, if you can get a slight edge, then do it. Like, if it's within the rules, or if you're not getting told off for it, then it's not your fault. It's it's the competition, isn't it? It's the referee's decision whether or not they want to pull you up on it, and that's what the resting with the sandbag was, really. And obviously it's not okay to cheat, but if you can get away with some slight things here, slight things there, like with when you're using figure of eights with a deadlift, having it in your fingertips rather than like gripping the bar completely, you're getting another inch or so of kind of room and of lift, so it makes it a little bit easier.
So you
So
are.
yeah,
I never thought of that.
it's
I don't
just
like
like
using
that
figure
little
eights. I
thing.
can't get used to them. The figure sixes, I like them. But I would always try like my best not to use any of them because of my grip. I want my grip to be good because you need it to be good. So I watch some of your YouTube videos and I'm like, I'll take that pointer. But it's great though too that we have like social media and that to look at, because you can, like, I learned so much just by watching other people's YouTube channels. And like we would sit on it and watch, like we would watch Terry Hollins, and you'd watch Big Laws, and you'd watch, all the men, and then you watch like Chloe and yourself. I think it's only two. Donna has a YouTube channel, I think, but she doesn't post too much on it nowadays. That I see anyway. And I think you two are the only strong women that have a YouTube channel, though, weren't you?
Yeah, well, we're just starting it, and
Yeah.
it's hard to kind of get used to the editing. Like, that's one thing we're getting used to, at least. But we are wanting to just kind of grow it and put some content out there and kind of grow the women's side of the sport. And it's hard thinking about ideas like for videos and stuff as well. We don't want it to just constantly be training.
Yeah.
Like today we went to Blackpool Zoo, so we're gonna put that up as a video as well, so
Oh,
people
cool.
can kind of see what we get up to outside of the gym.
And you could probably do some like collaborative videos as well with some like way strong men and strong women. It'd be good to see too.
Yeah,
So it would.
definitely. And then bring like behind the scenes competition day kind of stuff as well.
Yes. I know, like I've got that bloody video and I still haven't even, I don't know whether to put it out. It's that long. I don't know whether to put it out in part one like part 1 and part 2, but I'll work on that some morning. What do I see? I think that pretty much covers everything, Rebecca. Is there anything? So what have you come? You've mentioned about conversations. Jesus. About. Hang on, deep breath, Nicole. Breathe. My mind sometimes goes like 90 and it comes out my mouth before I even think about it. You were saying about competitions you've got planned. So when's your next competition and what have you got planned for the rest of 2022?
So we're not sure what's happening with, well, the next official competition will be Wales' Strongest Woman. They'll be doing that for both Aunt Brown's Federation and Glenn's Federation. So I've got Wales' Strongest Woman in June and then Wales' Strongest Woman in July as well. But just the two different.
I thought they were together. I thought they were working. They're not. They're separate. All right. Okay.
So I'm doing that twice. And then I'm hoping that I get an invite to the World's Ultimate Strongman competition in Dubai, well, World's Ultimate Strong Woman. I didn't get an invite last year, and I'm just really hoping that this year I've shown that I'm on form and that I can perform really well. So hopefully that one is in kind of, usually it's August, September time.
Yeah.
And then I'll be going back to World's Strongest Woman as well. And then after that, I'm hoping to go to do that Giants Live World's Strongest Nations.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask you, if you had your invite to Giants Live. Yet you'll be the first females on Giants Live, from what I know anyway, won't you?
Yeah, it will be. And I think there's going to be 3 women invited. I'm assuming Donna Moore's going to be invited because she's been used as the poster girl for it.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that I get one of the other invites. Giants Live have asked for my phone number and email address the other day, which is a good sign, hopefully. But I'm hoping that they do, because they're busy now with World's Strongest Man, aren't they? Coming up in a couple of weeks. So I'm not going to hound them too much and just hope that they get back to me soon and hopefully get the invite.
You don't have to hound them. I'll drop a comment under one of their posts. Is Rebecca getting the where's Rebecca's invite? Where's Rebecca? Then that way, you know, they can say some twats hounding them, not the word strongest woman. That's one good thing about the page is too, like I just tag people and poke people and all that crack. Anyway, what were we going to say?
Well, it's literally only 30 minutes away from my house as well, the arena, because like I live in St Helens, which is like really close to Liverpool. So
I know St Helens. I worked in Weston whenever I was up there studying, Weston Hospital, and then I was in St Helens for my district nurse placement.
That's my father in Weston. That's where he was with his heart failure.
It's a good hospital up there, so it is. Well, it was whenever I was working there.
But yeah, so it wouldn't be too far to travel to get down there. Wouldn't need a hotel. Could just chill and just drive over on the day.
That's true. I have some fire questions to ask you, if I can. I have the book here. The fire questions is pretty much the end of it. If I can find them. Oh God, I know it's on my. I forgot. I took it to UK's. It's in my bag downstairs. I'll just write them out here quickly so I can remember what they are. Are you there?
Yeah. So, I'm a friend that is the same friend that tried to ring. She's just messaging me.
So there's just a few short ones. So fire questions. Answer them as quickly or as not quickly as you like. Your favorite tea or coffee?
Tea.
Your favorite season, as in weather?
Winter.
Oh, really?
That's
Oh.
my birthday.
Your favorite football team? Rugby team.
Rugby team.
Your favorite event?
Farmers.
Your favorite gym day?
Back and deadlifts.
You're the strong man and strong woman you most like your most admire, or like your favorite strong man, strong woman. Your favorite of all time strong man, strong woman. That's the question.
What, one of each or
one of each? Yeah,
one of each. So strong woman, it's got to be Donna Moore.
Yeah.
He was one of the first people that I started to look up to when I got into the sport. And strong man, trying to think. I really like Novikov. It'll either have to be Novikov or Lisi's.
Yeah. Your favorite cheat meal?
Domino's pizza. Large pizza, stuffed crust, barbecue base, all of the meat, and a side of garlic bread.
Lovely. Your favorite holiday destination?
America. Florida.
Anywhere, Florida, yeah, it's class. Your favorite city?
Bangor, where I was born, up in North Wales.
I was going to say you're it's definitely not over here. You were born in Bangor.
North Wales, Bangor, and an Irish one.
Yes. The person you most admire?
It's got to be my friend Sarah. Now she's a strong woman as well. She's like a Welsh strong woman, and I just admire her strength, her mental strength as well as physical strength. She's been through some stuff, and she still kind of makes time to make sure her friends are okay, make sure her family is okay, and she's been like a rock for me for years, and she's been such an amazing support. Like she was at UK's this year helping with my mentality before the comp, but last year, like she's just been amazing. So yeah, I think my friend Sarah.
Cool. Your your favorite fancy dress, if you were going to dress up for Halloween or something?
Unicorn.
Unicorn. And last one, if you have a bucket list, what is your top 3 things on it to do?
I want to win World's Strongest Woman 4 times and kind of beat the record for the most amount of wins. I also want to do a kind of a road trip around America. So I want to hire a camper van and just do a massive tour. That's one thing that I've been wanting to do for a while. And another one is to get that 400-pound Atlas stone, the 180 kilos. That's on my bucket list of strength.
Cool. That is all the questions, Rebecca. Thank you for being very patient with me as I lost my train of thought, and that hang on, I'll start that again. Swear to my God. Thank you, Rebecca, for coming on today and being patient with me as I just fucked things up. No, but seriously, no, thank you for coming on and taking the time out from your schedule, because I know you have been very busy. And hopefully I get chatting to you again, and good luck in getting that 400-pound Atlas stone at England's strongest man. I have no doubt in my head that you will not get, that you'll get that, like you'll 100% get that. And I'll be looking forward to watching it on TV and cheering you on.
Thank you. It was
Thank
great to
you.
chat with you as well.
No bother. Hang on a wee minute.
Thank you for listening. Now don't forget to subscribe and ring that wee bell. Ding